Bloomberg Tech is live from coast to coast with Caroline Hyde in New York and Ed Ludlow in San Francisco.
This is Bloomberg Tech. Coming up, Intel stock soars as Nvidia says it will invest $5 billion and co-develop chips for PCs and data centers. Plus, Disney takes Jimmy Kimmel live off the air indefinitely amid a backlash to remarks the late-night host made about the killing of Republican activist Charlie Kirk. And we talked to Meta's chief product officer about the company's new smart glasses and its AI push. But first, we check in on these markets, which are at new record highs. The Nasdaq is up about a percentage point as we see Nasdaq 100 at a new record. And we're being driven, yes, by macro sentiment, yes, by a Fed rate cut, but by news in the chip sector. Nvidia investing $5 billion in Intel. And you see the marked move, 25% higher, $30 billion added in market cap for Intel. Another lifeline coming from Nvidia. But what actually will they co-create? Let's go to Bloomberg's chip sector expert, Ian King. Ian, we're trying to read the tea leaves. This is a lot of signal to the administration. But what does it say about actual innovation here?
Yeah, I mean, what Intel is getting here is basically a stronger PC product. It's going to get access to graphics chips, which can combine with its own, and that'll make it stronger in the market for laptops and desktops. On the flip side, it's getting some access, and we don't know how much, to Nvidia's runaway business in the data center, whereby its data center CPUs will be combined into data center products, and obviously Nvidia's accelerators are by far dominate the market there. So in theory, it should help Intel have access to areas it currently doesn't.
So expand the potential addressable market for Intel, which has certainly lagged in the world of AI. For Nvidia, what do they get?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I think based on the conversations that we had with people over there, what they're looking at is they want to be able to go to the data center market, to their customers and say, hey, look, choice is everything. If you don't want our in-house CPUs, go with Intel. It's great. It's all here. It's all there for you. So that allows them to present a sort of a more kind of, hey, we are the world approach to a market where they are extremely dominant. So that's not a bad thing. And that is probably the biggest thing that they're getting out of this.
And also some political tailwinds, I'm sure. Jensen Huang can read the room. He understands that the government just took a 10% stake in Intel. That 10% stake is markedly more valuable on the back of Nvidia's support. But it's not as though we're suddenly going to see manufacturing and the fabs making Nvidia's chips, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's the heart of the matter, is more than some money, more than a technology partnership. Intel needs customers for those factories. Its business on its own isn't enough to sustain the development and the investment that's required to keep those and get those things back to being state-of-the-art. It's just not enough. The ideal scenario for Intel would have been for Nvidia to give it a huge amount of orders for those factories, and that has not happened.
I think what you do so brilliantly in the story is remind us of the context. The reason Silicon Valley is called Silicon Valley is because of Intel. But nowadays, a quarterly revenue number from Nvidia basically equals a yearly revenue number from Intel. They've just been so left behind. Is this what's more needed? Nvidia support, SoftBank support, let alone the US government's?
Yeah, I mean, all of this financial support is helpful, right? That Intel's balance sheet, according to its CFO, isn't where it should be. Anything which redresses that and gets it closer to being back in profit is good. But fundamentally, what drove Intel in the past was this tight manufacturing capability linked with design capabilities, and that was an engine which just powered it forward. Doesn't have that now, doesn't have world-leading products, doesn't have the best manufacturing. It needs at least one of those, and it needs the volume to be able to sustain that investment going forward, and that's still a work in progress.
Ian King, we thank you for all of that analysis. Some quick breaking news for you now before we discuss further Nvidia and Intel. The FTC is suing Live Nation and Ticketmaster, they say, for engaging in, quote, illegal ticket resale tactics and deceiving artists and consumers about price and ticket limits. Of course, this is something that we were discussing with the StubHub CEO just yesterday amid its IPO, but the agency is alleging Ticketmaster used deceptive pricing tactics and earned hundreds of millions selling tickets acquired illegally by brokers, costing consumers billions of dollars in inflated prices and additional fees. We'll go more on that story a little bit later. But let's go back to Nvidia and Intel right now. Jordan Klein, I'm pleased to say, joins us, Managing Director over at Mizuho Americas. Your note, always a must-read every morning. And for me, the takeaway was clear. Who are the winners, but also who are the losers? And I'll go to the losers now, because you say this is bad for AMD, this is putting pressure on ARM. How so?
Well, thanks for having me. Yeah, immediately it's going to add competitive pressure, I guess, with AMD facing Intel now with Nvidia and the technology they bring for the PC desktop market. So that's one area, but basically a lot of investors don't care so much about what happens in the PC market. They care much more in the data center. And that's where AMD has been gaining a lot of market share and server processors from Intel as they've been lagging on the technology side. So I think this makes them, Intel a more credible player. It's going to be a guess as to when these products may come out. And then for ARM, ARM is the biggest licensing company for a lot of these non-x86 server processors and chips. And so they have a very good relationship with Nvidia as well as others. And I think it just adds a little bit of uncertainty as to, market share in the data center market, now that Intel and is going to have x86 working with Nvidia.
We're looking at the share price reactions. In fact, ARM and AMD are basically the only chip stocks in the red today. The rest of the stocks, the semiconductor index, is well into the green, up more than 3.5%, Jordan. But as you say, Nvidia and ARM have a very close relationship. And I think if you go and ask ARM, they'd say, we know Nvidia is very committed to us. And also, Masayoshi Son invested in Intel some $2 billion. He must think that all boats can rise here, because he, of course, has a key stake in ARM.
Yeah, I think it was mentioned earlier that this is providing valuable diversification across the industry. And I think that's the way SoftBank would probably look at it, is they're spreading bets across a lot of these different companies, not necessarily betting on one horse to win the race. Now, they do own like over 80% of ARM, so clearly that's their key horse in this race. But yes, they invested in Intel, probably more for manufacturing capabilities down the road. But I think overall, this is just kind of a positive shot in the arm for the broader semiconductor sector. I mean, it definitely strengthens the domestic leading logic supplier, which is Intel, makes them a bit stronger. And I think it, over time helps Nvidia broaden their bets as well within the data center.
Yeah, talk to us about how the underlying architectures are currently competing or indeed winning out. Because I think for many, they're trying to understand how Nvidia at the moment just seems to dominate, because they not only own the hardware stack, but their software is so important as well. When you add Intel into that situation, what does x86 really mean for Nvidia's long-term domination?
Well, I think, obviously before the deal, Nvidia was happy to just offer their Grace CPU, which is ARM-based, and so they would offer that in conjunction with the high processing speed GPUs, so it was Grace Blackwell as a solution. I think now they're going to be able to offer a x86-based server processor, which is what Intel does and what AMD does. So it enables customers, as Ian was saying before me, to run these workloads in any sort of environment. They don't have to just go with NVIDIA. They have flexibility. And let's be honest, as much as Intel has struggled, they still have the largest market share of server chips in the data center. It's just they're losing a lot of that. I think the challenge here is that it's going to put more pressure on an AMD, because AMD is not only facing pressure from NVIDIA on the GPU side, but they're facing a lot of pressure in these custom ASIC chips, like from Broadcom, right, and Marvell and others, and they don't do a custom ASIC. So again, that's something ARM says they want to do. They want to provide technology to do their own custom chip. We'll see what happens there. But again, the space is constantly evolving and moving, and that's what keeps all of us on our toes, namely investors.
I mean, certainly it's a game of frenemies. And Jordan, that's why your note's so integral, is you sort of sentiment check what long-only investment sentiment is like and where people are over-allocated, under-allocated. Should people be buying into Intel as it rips this high?
Well, that I think is the key question is like, will this pop in the stock on excitement about this investment sustain and pull in real mutual fund buyers? I think momentum and quantitative strategies probably chase the stock. I want to see if real mutual funds come in, kind of like they did with Oracle a week ago when it rallied. A lot of people were not overweight Oracle, and they had to chase it. Intel is in these benchmarks that a lot of these relative managers or mutual funds try to keep up with. And this is a big move, and no one really owns it that I speak to. So that's going to be the question. If you don't own it and it's up 30%, how long do you want to wait? If it doesn't come back, you may have to just start buying it.
And what about elsewhere? What's been so interesting is the whole semiconductor index, bar AMD and ARM, ripped higher. And even the chip equipment makers, ASML over in Europe, for example. How much broader can this winning streak get?
That's the question I keep asking myself, is this has been an epic run for the semiconductors, not just this whole year, but as of late. I think a lot of people were expecting this group to pause and money to broaden out into other areas of both tech and equities. And it really hasn't. So that's forced people to try to keep up. The memory stocks like Micron, SanDisk, and the disk drives, Western Digital and Seagate, have recently just taken charge. And this is because if inferencing demand, like at OpenAI and Anthropic and these AI models, is increasing, that's putting added pressure on capacity. And these companies need more memory, they need more compute, and ultimately they'll need the tools and equipment to manufacture more of these chips. So I think for now it all looks great. The question is going to be when the companies report in October, largely, will the results and the guidance be enough to keep this rally going? And we'll find out.
Jordan Klein, always so appreciate you leaping on the news. Mizuho Americas, we love the notes. Meanwhile, coming up, Disney, it pulls Jimmy Kimmel Live off the air indefinitely after a backlash to remarks made by the host. Details next. This is Bloomberg Tech.
We hit some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it.
That was the line that cost Jimmy Kimmel his show, prompting Disney's ABC network to take Jimmy Kimmel Live off the air indefinitely amid a backlash to those remarks made about the killing of Republican activist Charlie Kirk. Bloomberg's Lucas Shaw, author of Screen Time newsletter, joins us now. Lucas, the pace at which this happened is remarkable. Just take us through the timeline.
Yeah, well, look, Jimmy's comments or Kimmel's comments were on his show Monday. We go through Tuesday without anything happening. There was some online outrage, of course, but no comments from Disney or stations or anything like that. But then Wednesday, Brendan Carr, the chair of the Federal Communications Commission, went on Benny Johnson's podcast. Carr has openly antagonized a lot of media companies, said that they're all, part of the left-wing mafia, basically, and said that he saw reason to potentially go after or punish ABC and Disney, which owns ABC, and urged local stations to take action. Later that day, Nexstar, one of the largest owners of local TV stations in the country, said that it would be preempting Kimmel. It's probably important to note that Nexstar is in the process of trying to acquire Tegna, which requires FCC approval. And then just moments after that, Disney issued a statement saying that it was taking Kimmel off the air. And our reporting indicates that it was really after Carr's comments and then Nexstar's pressure that Disney acted. Prior to that, they had no plans to punish Kimmel or do anything.
Brendan Carr, the FCC chair, as you say, has been on other networks today, saying that really Jimmy Kimmel, and through his comments, appeared to mislead the public about a significant fact. Will the FCC do anything further after this, given that he's already been axed?
Well, he hasn't been axed. It's important to note that it is possible that the show is over forever. Disney has not made that determination. They certainly haven't announced it. So while I don't know what odds I put on it, but Disney's current attitude is that Kimmel will be back on the air at some point. In terms of what Carr can do, most legal experts I know seem to think that this would not be a case where the FCC is going to pull a broadcast license, right? First of all, Kimmel's comments have been somewhat misconstrued. He was not actually commenting on the political affiliation of the person who is alleged to have killed Charlie Kirk, but more so on the kind of right wing's effort to attack the left wing and make clear that this killer was not one of them, or alleged killer. But also, people say things on television all the time that are not quite right? Whether it's on Fox News or MSNBC or CNN. Not to malign any of those in particular, it's just sort of part of the game. So it seems unlikely, but you never really know with this administration. They've been very aggressive in going after the media, often in cases that most legal scholars think don't have a lot of foundation.
Lucas, you bring us such nuance, particularly to exactly where Jimmy Kimmel stands and the future of his show. It's also seeing the review and the view coming from the Democratic leaders who are calling for the FCC chair's own resignation for a corrupt abuse of power. Just the politicization of the media at the moment. Remind us the context of that.
I mean, look, there's ever... I was about to say ever since Trump took office for a second time, but it really predates that, right? We live in a moment where the two sides of the political aisle can't seem to agree on anything, and anytime there's any type of controversy, they use it to further their ends, right? So the right wing has used Kimmel as yet another example of how the mainstream media is a bunch of liberals, and the liberals are saying that this is cancel culture, and look at the right wing hypocrisy, which they'd been complaining about cancel culture and trying to turn Kimmel into sort of a celebrity of free speech. And it's really tough for these media companies, right? If you remember, Disney settled a lawsuit that Trump brought previously over some comments that George Stephanopoulos made. We just went through the kind of David Ellison getting his deal for Paramount approved, and that only happened after CBS settled a lawsuit from Trump regarding a Kamala Harris interview. So you're sort of damned if you do, damned if you don't, if you're a media company right now. And I think a lot of them are just not sure how to respond and interact with the current administration and their viewers right now.
Something you're going to be writing about, you're going to be talking about, you're going to be interviewing about. Bloomberg's Lucas Shaw, we thank you so much because, of course, don't forget, soon enough, we have Bloomberg Screen Time back live from Los Angeles, October the 8th and 9th. Check out the website for more information, bloomberglive.com/screentime. It's Lucas's show, and we cannot wait to be there. Meanwhile, coming up, we're going to be joined by Zoom Chief Product Officer Smita Hashim on the company's latest AI tools. This is Bloomberg Tech. Of course, this is the year of Agentic AI. And Zoom, the latest company out with AI Companion 3.0, enhancing Agentic AI across the Zoom platform with, of course, many a product being unfolded. Chief Product Officer Smita Hashim joins us from Zoomtopia 2025, where all of this is being announced. And I'm really interested by analysts. They are out there liking this news. They are raising price targets. And Oppenheimer really saying that you continue to lean into your AI-first strategy. What does that look like with your current event today?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, first of all, for having me here. It is a pleasure. With AI Companion 3.0, Caroline, we have really moved into agentic fully. So when we talk about AI Companion 3.0, our goal is for AI to be your collaboration partner that is there for you to help you actually get things done. And it does so by having advanced skills like reasoning, memory. So AI Companion and orchestration and task actions. So it helps you really get things done. That's what AI Companion 3.0 announcement was about. And we demonstrated a host of practical skills which will really help millions of users. So users, for example, getting context from a note-taker skill, which can join multiple meetings, including from Google and Microsoft. We talked about how it can free up your time, how it can help you prospect customers better with agentic prospecting skills, which will come to our product, which is for sales of our customer support products. So we announced a lot of these, including a new surface, as well as how it will help you really do advanced writing, which updates as you go through meetings and discussions. So that was the slew of announcements. So lots of great user benefits.
Yes.
And then lots of great user benefits and ways for customers to do more through paying for premium offerings, which, I can elaborate on if you want.
Well, let's talk a little bit about how yesterday at Zoomtopia, with all of these announcements come growth opportunities, which the analysts really point out, the fact that you can grow wallet share. Who does it put you up against? Because your own story, Smita, is one of having worked at Microsoft and Google. It feels as though you're pitting yourself against some of their offerings.
So the way we look at it is actually Zoom very much coexists with Microsoft, with Google, because all of our customers use one of these two companies alongside Zoom. But if you look at the number of applications that customers use, they use many, many, many applications, not just Google and Microsoft. And the number of applications they use has increased a lot. So what we are doing at Zoom is we are providing them great experiences on really core capabilities like meetings, like phone, like contact center, like sales product. So we are providing that, and they use that alongside these companies, and we actually go out of our way to integrate them and make it a seamless experience for our users and customers. And I think that's what our customers and users love.
So who is your competitor? Is it Salesforce?
So when we think about where we stand is that our competitors are so there are many, many companies in every space. I think where we are seeing customers come to us is they are using us to actually consolidate more of their services onto Zoom. So they may be using, an average enterprise uses, I think, 200, 300 applications. So they're bringing more of them to us, of course, meetings, but also phone. Also, they are bringing in products like Whiteboard, or they are thinking about the next version of their contact center. So the spectrum is wide, but it's really about companies who want to modernize their experience and use fewer platforms, as well as a platform that truly is open and integrates, so they can continue to make the transitions in the way they want.
And talk about how you price some of this, particularly for the SMB sector, which really seems to be an area that you're growing in, briefly.
Yeah, so absolutely. So, core AI companion capabilities, we include at no additional charge because we want every customer to benefit from it. But beyond that, you can pay for extra capabilities. You can pay for capabilities like a custom AI companion add-on, which lets you connect to the specific applications you use or data sets you have. And that one is priced at $12 per user per month. We also have our paid products also include our customer support product, our sales products, and also our webinar and marketing product, which is webinar and events.
Smita, it's been great talking to you off the back of Zoomtopia yesterday. Chief Product Officer Smita Hashim, thank you very much indeed. Coming up, we'll get back to today's big tech story. Nvidia investing $5 billion in Intel. Look at the stock market reaction for Intel. This is Bloomberg Tech. Welcome back to Bloomberg Tech. We're checking on the markets, which are at record highs if you're looking at the NASDAQ 100. Macro tailwinds of a Fed rate cut, but a deal. At least a $5 billion injection into Intel coming from Nvidia, and it powers the semiconductor industry higher, apart from a couple of names which we'll dig into. We're up 3.4% for Nvidia, important when it's a $4 trillion juggernaut. But we had a record move for Intel, up 27%. You're adding about $30 billion in market valuation. This on a sign of support coming from Nvidia. We want to dig into perhaps how much of this is a political statement as much as it is a real innovation statement. We go to our tech editor, Mike Shepard, to do that out in Washington. This is so interesting. Once again, Jensen Huang reading the political room here, understanding that the government has a 10% stake in Intel. They want to see it flourish and succeed. And seemingly it looks like it can do that if they innovate together.
And Carol, the timing of this really is uncanny. President Donald Trump is in London as we speak, and the announcement came just as the president was about to take part in a tech leaders forum with Prime Minister Keir Starmer and Jensen Huang in the audience. And for this to emerge right at that moment really signaled that this is a shot in the arm, not only for Intel, the company, but also for President Donald Trump's vision when it comes to AI and also the government's own investment in Intel. Now, remember, the government took that 10% stake, and we've already seen it rise in value by $4.9 billion today to $14 billion. But just as importantly, we're seeing the two companies agree to co-develop products, chips together. We don't have too many details on them, but just the fact that they're going to be working together signals perhaps more than just a financial path forward, but perhaps a tech path forward too that would allow Intel to find some more customers, which it desperately needs.
Mike, I love that you bring up the timing of all of this, because I think we can go now to, well, a statement that President Trump was making over in the United Kingdom alongside Prime Minister Starmer about the dominance of Nvidia at the moment. Just take a listen.
So we're taking the next logical step with a historic agreement on science and technology partnerships, and this will create new government, academic, and private sector cooperation in areas such as AI, which is taking over the world. It's, I mean, I'm looking at you guys. You're taking over the world, Jensen. I don't know what you're doing here. I hope you're right. All I can say is we both hope you're right. But it's pretty amazing.
Nvidia wants to take over the world a little bit more in certain areas it can't. Like China, of course, it's limited in access there, largely because the Chinese government is pushing back on it. Talk about what we learned from Huawei just overnight and what this sort of competitive threat looks like for Jensen.
Well, it's a great question, Carol, because as you say, timing is everything. And Huawei earlier today outlined its vision for what's coming next when it comes to their product line. They unveiled new versions of its Ascend chip that will be released next year and in subsequent years that will feature more high bandwidth memory. That's critical, of course, to powering the inference learning of artificial intelligence. More importantly, though, they also talked about a vision for how to string all those chips together. You see, Carol, those individual Huawei chips, when you match chip for chip against the likes of Nvidia, the Chinese products aren't measuring up. And yet, when you put them all together in large clusters, that's where they gain ground. And this was what what Huawei executives outlined. And it's important also because Huawei is sending a message to the world. This is how we are going to compete with Nvidia. And for China, this is how China will compete with the United States for supremacy in artificial intelligence and really challenge Donald Trump in saying that we are dominating the world in AI. The Chinese have an answer of their own. And of course, Carol, tomorrow at 9 a.m. Eastern Time, President Donald Trump and his Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping are going to have that crucial call that we have been waiting all week for to hear how the leaders will sort all of these tech issues. Not just TikTok, but of course, the fate of Nvidia and its desire to get back into the Chinese market.
Mike Shepard, perfect wrap up. We thank you. Let's get the analysis on what this means for Intel and Nvidia from their own fundamental growth now. Kunjan Sabani is with us, semiconductor analyst for Bloomberg Intelligence. You've written a note already saying $5 billion equity investment into Intel and co-development, the x86 CPUs, marks a strategic development and a win for both. And I'm interested as to what the win is from Intel's perspective, because they're not going to be manufacturing yet Nvidia's chips. They're just going to be innovating together.
Yes, I mean, Intel is the biggest beneficiary of this deal. So in the data center AI server market, especially the high-end AI server market, this is a much needed lifeline as Intel has had almost negligible AI server revenue. So this puts them on the ground floor where now Nvidia servers would be able to ship with an x86 CPU, which is what the majority of the server CPUs are based on. So significantly expands their revenue, could expand their revenue base for AI server revenues. For Nvidia, it's more of a strategy hedge on this side. And coming to the AI PCs now, again, remember, Nvidia has a stronghold in the discrete GPU market in gaming and crypto, but now this Nvidia can leverage the scale when it comes to AI PCs with Intel, and Intel now gets access to the world's best-in-class GPU that it can put in its chip and compete better with AMD.
Kunjan, briefly, this is not good for AMD, it feels like.
No, this definitely is a lot of competitive pressure for AMD, and to some extent could be potentially also not good for ARM.
Kunjan Sabani, keeping it short for us. We've got to go and read more of your note from Bloomberg Intelligence. We so appreciate it. Now, coming up, we're going to be talking to Meta's Chief Product Officer about the company's new wearables and its AI push. That's next. This is Bloomberg Tech.
Take superintelligence seriously. This is going to be the most important technology in our lifetimes. AI should serve people. not just be something that sits in a data center automating large parts of society. So we design our glasses to be able to empower people with new capabilities as soon as they become possible.
Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg there at Meta Connect last night, unveiling a host of new AI-powered wearables and features for its metaverse platform, including glasses. Market reaction? Well, we're up at about a percentage point on the day. We're about to hear from Meta's Chris Cox in a moment. But first, I want to bring in Bloomberg's Riley Griffin. And the market reaction is Bank of America saying, look, this is still at $800 AR glasses. It's still early for mass adoption. But then you've got Citi saying these are a must-have and a clear extension of the superintelligence buy. Riley, how do you assess it?
Caroline, it's a great question, and I'm eager to hear from Chris Cox about how he views the market reaction as well. This is a first-of-its-kind glass for Meta. This is an AI-powered display on the glasses that should bring a lot of the functionality of your phone. But importantly, it still requires the phone itself and a neural wristband. So whether or not this becomes a mass consumer product, we'll still have to see. But it, as an innovation, is certainly a big unveiling by the company.
Let's get to the company. Bloomberg's Riley Griffin, thank you so much for that analysis. We've got to get out to Meta's headquarters in Menlo Park now, where our own Ed Ludlow is standing by.
Yeah, thanks, Caro. A year ago today, almost, I was sat here having spent 6 hours with the engineering team that were working on Orion, a fully augmented glasses that was being dog-fooded internally, right? This was about testing. Fast forward to today, and we have a halfway, the Meta Ray-Ban display, smart glasses with a display in the lens. And the reaction has been, this is a consumer technology innovation worth talking about. So delighted to do so with Chris Cox, Meta's Chief Product Officer. I think that context is really important, right? The evolution from Orion to this halfway point. But my question to start is, who is this targeted at, right? You have generations of prior generation Meta Ray-Ban wearers, or is this a new entry, people starting from scratch?
I think it'll probably be some combination of both. So just because we're talking about it here, these are the Meta Ray-Ban displays. Right. You can see we've worked with Ray-Ban to get them into the form factor that people are comfortable wearing. This is the most worn design for a pair of sunglasses or glasses. And so we're starting with something. We didn't want to put something onto the market that was clunky. We're starting with something that's really, really nice. And I'll also just mention there's a waveguide in here.
Okay, which a waveguide being?
Basically, it's light that's being projected through a series of mirrors into a small display that appears just below your right eye, and you can actually change where that is.
It's $800, right?
That's right.
But the emphasis over and over again is like, this is a consumer product.
Yes.
It's not for engineers.
That's right.
What is the one killer feature in it then that you think is going to appeal?
Messaging.
Just messaging.
Well,
so
that's,
Mark Zuckerberg was talking about
that's
how he uses it. Yeah.
Yeah, messaging I'd say is going to be the most useful to start. It comes with this wristband, which is an EMG wristband. You wear it around your wrist. It detects very subtle muscular and nervous system sort of activity, so that you can just use a tiny gesture with your fingertips to control essentially a cursor that controls the display. So we've worked to get into something that means that you can use a display in glasses without needing to wave your hands around in the world or carry around a mouse or something like
and this is why evolution is important. The neural band is directly from the Orion project. I remember experimenting with the technology 1 year ago.
So the R&D here is you have the North Star, which you've seen, which is Orion, like you said, and then you're also working forwards from what we know people are comfortable wearing, which is the Ray-Bans. I think we're going to see early adopters pick it up, to your question.
Yes.
I think we're going to see enthusiasts, like you were mentioning to me before, you wear the Meta Ray-Bans a fair amount.
But I wear them when I'm driving.
Yeah, well, that's a thing.
Because the display in the Ray-Ban display, obviously, if you're driving, not the best use case.
Yeah, not intended for driving.
Last night, you did live demos. Some of them didn't go very well, but you're getting a lot of credit for doing live demos. Just very simply and for transparency, what did go wrong in those demos?
I haven't looked into them. I believe it was the Wi-Fi, but we're trying to have these events where we're not canning them. We know people don't want something that's canned, so we're erring on the side of trying to do it live.
I've got a question from our audience.
Yep.
Ray-Ban display, will it be available for prescription lenses?
Yes.
And why was that important? This is a question that's come up a lot with Ray-Bans.
Well, just we know around 1 to 2 billion people on Earth wear glasses. A bunch of them are wearing them as sunglasses, and then a whole bunch of folks are wearing them with prescriptions.
Chris, where are these going to be manufactured?
I'm not 100% sure.
You're chief product officer, and you don't know where?
Yeah, I think it's in a handful of places. The parts are assembled in a bunch of different places.
Not China? Or is there a sensitivity around supply chain hardware in China?
I believe there's some work being done in China, but I'm not 100% sure.
What I'm always trying to understand with Meta is where the company stands today. At times, and presently, I think about the family of apps. You ran Facebook. Those people that are religious users of Facebook or WhatsApp, what is their relationship to this new generation of hardware?
So you'll be able to use WhatsApp on the device. We're trying to make sure that we're starting with communication, which is where the company comes from, making sure those products work well on the device. You're also able to view Instagram Reels, which we know people love. We're trying to just get a handful of first-party experiences right, and then eventually we'll be able to open that up.
Mark was talking about this as the vehicle for superintelligence, but you also have a background in software, so this is the interface. This is how I interact with it. But what other AI features can we expect to come through this mechanism and the family of apps as well?
We mentioned yesterday translation, live translation.
Yes.
Including the ability to caption somebody you're speaking to in a different language. We also mentioned the ability to focus a conversation. We're calling it conversation focus. So if you're in a crowded room, if you're at a party, if you're at a concert, you're able to focus in on the person who's speaking to you and get a clear audio of that. And so all of those things involve applications of AI to bring these things to life in ways that are practical.
I got a lot of questions from Meta users and the audience about what the developer community needs to know, but also your role in AI at Meta. What is it that you are focused on right now? Because we've reported a lot on the team changes, the superintelligence team. From a product perspective, I think people really want to understand, like, what is your focus?
Yeah.
And why are you going to bring more functionality to that?
Well, so there's the wearables, but there's also creative tools. So the ways that people are creating video, creating content, making that's really, really easy. AI is going to make it a lot easier for folks to do that. And a huge part of what Facebook and Instagram are is just, viewing the content that we create for each other. So that's where we're expecting to land a lot of the newest technology.
Okay, so September 30th, it's very close. And you will soon be able to, if you wish to, Caro, get Meta Ray-Ban displays. But the market, 1% gain, I think you said. The reaction is that this is a genuine innovation in consumer technology. And so it'll be interesting to see out the gate who goes for it. Back to you in New York.
Fascinating conversation with Chris Cox. We appreciate it, Ed. Meanwhile, we've had some breaking news, and we understand that President Donald Trump has asked the U.S. Supreme Court to let him oust Federal Reserve Governor Lisa Cook. While the legal fight over her firing proceeds, it's really pulling the justices into the battle over the central bank's independence at the moment. The Justice Department asked the court on Thursday to at least temporarily pause a federal judge's ruling that has allowed Cook to remain in her position for now. Of course, she was there in the decision room on Tuesday and Wednesday for the Fed. And it was a divided federal appeals court that on Monday night ruled that could keep her job in the interim, turning aside an appeal by the Trump administration that sought to fire her ahead of that central bank meeting. Now coming up, Via and Waymo. They launch autonomous rides for public transit in Arizona. We'll discuss with the Via CEO. That's next. This is Bloomberg Tech. We've discussed how US auto safety regulators are probing whether Tesla door handles are defective, following Bloomberg reporting into the issue. Now, Tesla chief designer Frans van Holzhausen spoke with Bloomberg's Matt Miller and Hannah Elliott. For Hot Pursuit podcast, here's what he had to say.
We actually have a mechanical release that's, basically right at the electronic one too, and we're combining the two. So, in the moment that you're in a panic situation, the muscle memory to go to, what is right there. So you just pull a little bit further on the lever and you have the mechanical release. So that's something that we're working on, yeah. And it's in the cars now.
Design change is coming. Let's shift gears a little bit, pardon the pun, Via Transportation. Well, it's entered a strategic partnership with Waymo to launch autonomous rides for public transit. Starting in Chandler, Arizona this fall, operating hours and pricing for the Waymo ride will be the same as human-driven rides under the City of Chandler's on-demand paid transportation program, which charges just $2 for a single ride. Daniel Ramotte is with us, co-founder and CEO of VIA. You are all about city mobility. You're all about the pricing being right for everyone in modern transit. How does Waymo change the game for Chandler?
Thanks for having me back. The idea is to use the most advanced technology, this is part of our mission, and bring it to local governments and make their systems, especially transit systems, more efficient. In this case, we can leverage the autonomous vehicles that Waymo already has to support service during peak hours, where we may have more demand than we're able to serve with our existing vans, and we can refer some of that demand to the autonomous vehicles.
What does Waymo get out of it? Because in many ways, they're having to stomach a much lower price point.
I think for Waymo, it's an opportunity to expand their reach, to serve some of those riders who have real needs. Who are the riders that use the Chandler Flex service, the service that we operate? Low-income folks, seniors, students, sometimes people with disabilities. So this is a great opportunity, I think, to expand autonomous vehicles and provide some of this advanced technology to folks who typically may not have access to it.
Let's talk about that expansion, because Arizona has been leading from the front in terms of adoption of robotaxis. Where do you see this going in terms of the other areas that you serve with mobility?
I think there's enormous opportunity to use autonomous vehicles as one of these advanced technologies to reduce the cost of public transportation, make it more efficient, make it available to more people. And I think this reinforces the role that VIA has to play, this key role that we play in bringing all these technologies together and making them available to these local governments and municipalities.
Yeah, let's remind ourselves. I mean, investors just got a good reminder because you went public just last week. But the underlying technology you provide, because originally I could get into a VIA car, but now that went, and really you're about servicing cities, about states in mobility.
That's right. We're about partnering with cities, with states, with transit agencies, these government organizations, typically very local, and giving them access to the most advanced algorithms, to AI, to autonomous vehicles, things that typically they may be way behind in adopting, and we're really trying to make it possible for them to adopt them very quickly, and in return, get much better service out to their residents, to folks who otherwise are dependent on very antiquated services that they may wait for an hour. We're trying to change that in a really meaningful way.
Change it when states and cities are cash-strapped. So how are you trying to serve them on the idea that this saves them money as well as helps their residents?
That's a really good point, Caroline, because I think they're pressured for budget. We haven't seen these budgets necessarily drop, but there's a feeling that there may be budget pressure, and the ability to use software to run their services more efficiently. Even if the budgets come down, they're able to provide equivalent service, maybe even greater service than they were before at these lower budgets. So I think it's just getting more and more important for our governments to get more efficient.
What's interesting is yesterday it was unveiled that Lyft is partnering with Waymo. These relationships keep on building, frenemies keep on making themselves more clear as Waymo aligns with Uber as well. Your shares haven't popped in the way that, say, Lyft's did on the day of the announcement. What do you think you need to convince investors then that robotaxis, AVs, is an area that VIA should be pushing towards?
I think this is part of our story. It's really about driving durable growth here, building out, partnering with more and more cities over time, and giving them access to autonomous vehicles is one way in which we can help them expand the service. And I think this will grow over time. I expect that this may be partnerships we can have in hundreds of cities around the world, together with Waymo and other autonomous providers.
This is about education of consumers as well, though, because we can all see first adopters rushing out to want to get in a Waymo. But if you're from an underserved community that perhaps hasn't had the money to be able to order an Uber and a Lyft whenever you want, certainly in a robo-taxi version, how are you thinking about marketing it to that new consumer?
So I think that would be really interesting to see how that evolves, because we have riders who are students who are probably going to be jumping all over this.
Yeah.
And then we have riders who are seniors who may feel, I don't know, maybe that's something quite new. So it'll be interesting to see how we can communicate these innovations to them, make them feel comfortable about adopting them, and hopefully if these systems are, as reported, safer than other systems, that can just help drive safety in public transportation, also very important. So,
your conversations with Tesla, anyone else?
We're in several conversations. I'll probably keep it there.
Okay, come on and tell us when there's more than just a conversation. Daniel Ramotte is with us, co-founder and CEO of VIA. Now, that does it for this edition of Bloomberg Tech. Check out the podcast, but check out the market moves of the key story today. It is about Nvidia and Intel. It's about Nvidia putting $5 billion in Intel, a commitment to innovate for AI PCs, for AI data centers. The market move is significant. This is Bloomberg Tech.